Welcome back to Swanson's Garage, everybody. I'm waiting on Loctite 660. That's on order. So, until that shows up and we can finish that bearing project, let's move on to the next thing. Today I dug out the front engine covers and front engine supports. I'm kind of working my way back into that corner. I want to make it back to the radiator to assess what I have with that, is where I started. But you know me, I got easily sidetracked, and these side covers need to be assessed as well. So let's do that today. Mainly I just want to see what I have, what I'm going to need to find, fix, you know the routine. Just kind of assess where we're at, compare what we have for parts between other parts, and I've already noticed some differences there. So this is the assembly for the 26, the one we're working on. This is the assembly for the 25, the one in the yard. I can tell that because this had that homemade galvanized pipe and pipe fitting oil lines, not factory, something a farmer came up with. You can see the other parts there from the pickup to the pump was all homemade cobbled up stuff there. And unfortunately they had cut into this housing a little bit for clearance, for where that pipe went that way to go to the, that went that way to fit, to go to the pan. None of that is right. We'll redo all that, of course, make it all factory. And then this assembly is from one of the spare engines that came with these tractors. It is also an Allis engine, so this must have came off of the busted up Allis block and not the truck block, because it has all the casting, AM casting numbers, which makes it a Allis part. So observations I've made thus far. This is for the 25. You can see the casting number. There's no suffix. By the time they got to the 26, there was a -1 suffix casting number. And this one must be from a 26 as well, because it has the same -1 casting number. So the difference I have found with that comes to changes in the oil pumps. So the 25, this is your oil pump, and you can compare it to the 26. The casting is different, and they have also changed the front support. It's smooth here, and on the 26s they have a recess cast into it to accommodate the change in the oil pump. Same story with the front engine support. There's a -1 after the number, where that is not the case on the 25. I believe the casting number's on the back of this one, but there's no suffix. So this pump is already loose. I can take it off to hold them side by side here, so you can see there's considerable differences between the two castings, and even the fittings between the two. If I kind of hold it on top here, you can see it's a completely different setup. The bolt holes, the alignment dowel pin holes, everything is different. The casting itself on the cover is different, and that's where the suffix changed. Every time they changed a casting, the suffix number would change. So this kind of tapers up, where these are bigger. They come straight up instead of tapering in. The footprint of the newer pump is bigger, I guess is a good way to say that. So knowing that, we'll have to keep all of that pumps for the 26 stuff together and all the pump stuff for the 25 stuff together. They are not interchangeable. I believe since we are pretty confident that the Michigan parts tractor is a 26, that will be the same as these two. So we'll possibly have a little bit of parts available for options for the 26, but as far as I know right now, this is the only interchangeable thing we have for the 25. This is the only parts I have for the 25. So other than that, that's the only difference I see on the front covers and engine supports and pumps. That's where the difference came into play. Like I said, as far as right now, I don't notice any other differences. We will have to get these front mounts off of these covers. I'm not sure how tight of a fit that is. I'm guessing it's like a light press or a interference fit. This one is very worn and comes right off because it must have been, I'm not even sure how that happened, if it was running loose or whatever, but you can actually see where it is worn into the part. I imagine that should not be that way. So we either have to fix that or potentially use this front cover in place of it, since as far as I know these two are exactly the same. So we might be able to just swap out parts there. We'll know more once we get everything cleaned up and check everything out really well. You probably see there is a seal on the front of the cover here. This one is in yet, as well as this one is still flush in there yet. Somebody must have started to remove this one. You can see they were cut it up, and it's considerably farther out than it should be. So we'll remove those. We'll have to try to find new seals for that. I rounded up, dug through the bolts and stuff, rounded up the right bolts for the engine mounts there and there and there. So we're good for as far as hardware goes. There's the hardware for that pump. Somewhere I have all the hardware for the covers themselves. So yeah, let's see if we can get maybe some stuff taken apart here today. I'm curious to see if I can get the pump off to kind of see what the guts of that look like. This one on initial inspection is looking pretty good. I'm hoping that'll all clean up and be able to be reused as is. It doesn't look like it's obviously worn or anything. We got the seal out of this spare part 1 front cover. Just as expected, it is a pretty simple seal. It's just a felt ring, and then that holds it in place. So depending on if we can find a modern seal to use there or not, we could always revert back to this and make a new felt seal if it comes to that. I'm try to figure out how to get this support off of this cover safely. Not sure how I'm going to do that yet. Of course the furnace goes to kick on when I start the video. Anyway, I'm going to show you I am making progress on getting this front engine support off of the front cover. Took a while to come up with the right combination of puller and spacers and bars, but one of my bearing bars we previously used was the perfect size for inside of there. And using the homemade bar as a cross piece, and I got a good bite on either side here, and then putting pressure on it and firmly but gently tapping it on the ends of that, and it's slowly coming off. It was down tight before, so as long as I patient and persistent, we should be able to get it off, hopefully without breaking anything. The cover is cast iron, so being very careful with that. This is cast steel, so I don't feel so bad. Gently banging on it a little bit, a lot less likely to break that cast steel. Got the engine support off. Took the oil pump from the original front cover, and looks like, yeah, all the holes line up with this cover. So I figured, oh, this should be a relatively easy fix then, as far as the wore out parts on the original. We can just take the oil pump from that one, put it on this cover with this engine support, and put it on the tractor, and that would solve that problem. Well, nothing is ever that easy. We still might be able to do that, but I've run into an issue. This would have to probably be fly cut a little bit because it's worn. That's no big deal though. We could fix that. So I've been cleaning up all the hardware, new lock washers, replace the old cracked ones. Same with these. Chase the threads in the front support here, which is up on end. And so this is the original wore out front support with the new cleaned, not new, but cleaned bolts. Things line up, right? Okay. So I took the good spare support to dry fit on here, and I start going, nothing is fitting right. What do we got going on? You can see that this is not sitting tight, square down to the housing. It's leaned back. Interesting. So I put the bolts back in, and with a square to this machined surface, you can see there, they are not tapped square with the tractor. Now, whether or not that is done on purpose, or if it was just a bad machine day at the factory that day, I am not sure at this point. But either way, things are not interchangeable, at least from what I can see at this point, between the two front engine supports. I think what I'll do next is try to eliminate what's crooked, what's wrong as far as machine. Is it the holes in this are not correct? It would actually be this one, not correct. Or is it because those are tapped crooked? Is it a little bit of both? I think I'll get this engine cover and support separated and see how that support compares to these two on that, and go from there as far as what our plan of attack is. If it wasn't so cold and whatever, I would go out and do the same thing compared to the one in the yard as far as that. Maybe if we get a nicer day, I will do that, because depending on the answer to those questions, we'll decide how we go about fixing this. I plan on, like I said, just using this cover and this support on the tractor, but if that isn't going to work as far as the holes, one option would be we could bore out these holes bigger to allow for the crooked, so everything would still bolt up. Option 2 would be, if we have to use this support, we could bore and bush this to fit this cover. Then we wouldn't have to fix that cover. That's another option. We could obviously bore and sleeve that one as well and use all original parts that have been fixed. Another option. So as of right now, yeah, I'm not sure what my plan is. We do have potential parts from the Michigan Parks tractor in the equation yet. We can't rule that out as an option. So there's several different options at this point. Nothing is ever easy though, is it? Checking with the straight edge through the bore and the square to the machine surfaces, it appears to me that all three of these, like the hole is drilled square to that surface. So right now, if I had to say that is the crooked factor, that is what's wrong with these equations. But more investigation will prove that theory. So it's a sunny 17-degree day, plenty warm enough to go outside and tap a couple holes and check with the straight edge, square rather. Looks like this tractor, they are square, or very close to square with the world. So I'm guessing that 26 in the garage was just a bad day at the machine shop. I repeated the same process for the cover for the 25. This one was testing my patience. Same process, and I got it to move, you know, about 1/8 inch up, and it would bind up. So I soaked it down, tapped it back down, repeated the process up and down several times. Finally, I let it sit overnight soaking and came back this morning now, and finally I was able to work it off. There's a considerable more rust and crust in this one, which accounts for the stubbornness of coming off. So as far as I know, this should be just like I said, a light interference fit, you know, kind of be able to just tap it on, but still be able to wiggle it around a little bit for final tuning when you're putting the engine in place to you know, account for small variances or whatever. So that's good. We can get this seal out of here now. We can take the pump off, see what kind of shape that's in, remove this Farmer Fix piping, since we're obviously not going to use that. A lot of this is already kind of loose, so I'll probably be able to get that off pretty easy. Curious to see what the pump looks like. Well, not as great looking as the 26 pump. This one's dry and crusty, but we'll clean it up and see what things look like. Sometimes that dusty, crusty rust looks worse than what it really is once you scrub it up. Let's press this oil pump apart here if we can. Oh yeah. Coming apart easy, that's good. What do we got for a spacer? Looks pretty good. As long as that one went so good, let's do the 25 block oil pump. See if that comes off as nicely. Oh yeah. It came pretty easy too. That's always good when things come apart nicely. That came apart even easier. That might clean up. It looks crusty, but I think a lot of that is just on the surface crust. We'll see. A couple more differences I've noticed between the 25 and 26. So the 26s, as we previously talked about, have this added relief for the oil pump, where the 25 doesn't. Other than that, besides casting number, the front side looks the same, but there's a little bit of a difference on the back sides I just noticed. When you flip them over, the casting number is different. It's hard to make out. It looks like something 784 maybe. We'll see if we can make any more of that out once it's sandblasted. But it's definitely not the same casting number. I don't see any AM before it, so that's kind of, I wonder if that's one of those exceptions to the rules like we've seen on the intake manifold. But anyway, I also noticed that the castings are different. The 26s have these hollow pockets on the back, just like the front, where the back on the 25 is all solid cast. So, difference there. And I got the seal taken out of the 25. Pretty crusty. I'll have to find a replacement for that. Another difference, I'm not sure if this is a factory thing or if by chance this cover has been reworked in a past life, but the 25 has poured Babbitt for the oil pump where the shaft goes through the cover. You can see where they like broached like a kind of like a star shaped before they poured the Babbitt. So I don't know if that was actually a production thing, or like I said, if this cover has been reworked, because then you got the little oil groove, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's not been machined into the Babbitt, and there's nothing, just a smooth bore on the inside. Where the both 26s are all cast, no poured Babbitt, but the oil channel extends down in the inside, and then there is a ring groove machined all the way around to lubricate that shaft on the 26s. This one is the same. No Babbitt, but there is a groove all the way around. So, it's kind of interesting. I'll have to do a little more read and see if there's any notes anywhere in the parts books or anything. I'd kind of doubt it because they don't typically make any notes of, it's not as if it's a bushing that's been added. That would probably be in the book, but just Babbitt I'm sure is not going to be. So if anybody that has these tractors knows anything about that, is this been modified? Is that how they were? Let me know. Another difference, the 25 oil pump, the pin for the gear in the pump is steel, whereas the 26 pump, the gear pin is copper. I did get this one wiggling, and there is some play in there, so hopefully, best case scenario, it's just the pin that's worn and we press out a new pin, make a new one, and that'll take up the wear. Hopefully the gear is still good, but that'll be another project. Get that out of there yet. Like I said, I haven't got it out. It's just, I got it wiggling, so we're winning. This one is still stuck in the 25. I'm gonna let that one soak a while. That one was pretty crusty. And further review, I see there's some wear on the 25 parts here too. So there's a good chance we'll be doing some machining, some boring and bushing, Yeah, I think we did pretty good this week. We've got all these covers taken apart, so we have a lot more parts we can clean up in the coming weeks. I thank you all for coming and hanging out with me. I hope to see you all next week. Hang out at Swanson's Garage some more. See you later.